Hey gang,
Hey folks,
Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop,
and I'm John.
and you're watching
You asked for
it with Will and John.
I think they figured that out.
Okay. Well, here we are for another segment. We're into this segment, and obviously you enjoy it as well. So we're back.
Whether you like it or not.
That's right. And we've got some great questions that came in just sort of randomly, and then from the last one. So we're just gonna jump right into it here. So you ready?
I hope so.
Okay, me too. So this was related to Spay with John from Bree Island. It looks like maybe.
Isn't that a cheese? Is that an island in Wisconsin?
I think that could be a place to go for cheese. Maybe. I
want to go there.
We should look that up.
We will.
Okay. I'm super new at this, but these videos really help see what's what. The only question I have is when and where is it appropriate to use these different casting techniques?
Well, they're obviously referring to spay casting, and it's a long answer, but we can simplify that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Let's try.
I think if you're on a wide open river, use whatever cast makes you happy, whatever cast you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know there's conditions when I have to adjust, like if there's an upstream wind, I got to cast off my upstream side. If there's a downstream wind, I got to cast off my downstream side.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the D-loop awareness part. So if I've got a bush right here, I can't cast off my left side. So I have to cast off my upstream side and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So choosing your cast is based on your environment.
Yeah.
Where are you going to make your D-loop?
Yeah.
If it's windy, you don't want the D-loop blowing into you.
I totally agree. You know, I did a week of fishing a few weeks ago, and we had some pretty good wind. And we don't get a lot of wind in the Rogue Valley, thankfully, but it was quite windy where we were, and I actually really did have to compensate different casts for the wind. It was pretty wide open other than that. And then, I could use different casts. And then sometimes we have the guides, telling us to really cast, not quartered down like we typically do down here on the road, but more kind of directly out. And so that's an adjustment cast as well. When I'd really like to do like a snap tee, but really I'm doing a double spay, because they want the fly to fish a certain way. So that's a part of that as well. So it's all about the type of water, I think, and the type of structure that you're fishing around and the type of conditions. And the last little point I'd like to make there is that what I see a lot for myself is the foundation of the two-hand cast. Once you really have a sense of the two-hand cast, you can just create casts kind of at will. Do you feel that way too? Like you can really just adjust, and a lot of times I'm doing casts that I don't know what they are, but they're getting it out there, and it's a water loaded cast.
Yeah, without a doubt. Sometimes you have to improvise, and it takes a little time on the water and casting and fishing a two-handed rod to kind of get to where you can improvise. But
it does.
Anchor D-loop forward cast, that's a spay cast, right?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But your point about angles is good. If you want to go straight across, double spay is a great cast for that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Moving on. Question 2. I have a trip booked in October. This is Rod from the Bay Area. I have a trip booked in October on the Sandy River in the Aleutian Islands for steelhead. David at Flywater Travel said I should have multiple tips of T14 and lighter. I have one 10-foot T14 and one 10-foot T11 Skagit Moe. What else should I have? He said the runs are not overly deep or fast. These tips confuse the hell out of me, and we hear this a bit.
We do, and a quick Moe tip, synopsis here, which could go on all day. But Moe is M-O-W, McCune, O'Donnell, Ward. The Bros of Moe, the three Spaketeers, some of the guys that help bring the Skagit line and sink tip fishing into the forefront, which we do a lot today.
Mm-hmm.
So a Moe tip is a family of sink tips, some of which is just 10 feet of T11 or T14, which to me is just a sink tip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then we have the integrated floating sinking. So here's a tip where, its overall length is 10 feet. So there's 5 feet of floating, 5 feet of sink tip. And so the overall length is still 10 feet.
Yeah.
As opposed to fishing just 5 feet of sink tip.
Yeah.
So this way, the overall length of the sink tip is always going to be 10 feet.
Yeah.
So they come in different configurations. This is a Mow Heavy, which is 5 feet of floating, 5 feet of T14, and they come in configurations of light, which is T8, medium T11, heavy T14, extra heavy T17, so on and so forth. So
yeah, and that's what I really think of as a Mow tip. When people talk about Mow tips, when I talk about them, I'm talking about the integrated floating, sinking 10-foot tips. When we're talking about standing, some of the confusion comes when you're talking about a standard tip. 10 feet of T11, to me, that's just a sink tip. Obviously, it's within the Mow family because it's packaged together. It has that, from Rio, it has that name. But 10 feet of T11, 12 and a half feet of T11, and we're just talking about sink tips. And for me, definitely, I will have 10 feet of T11, 12 and a half feet of T11, 15 foot of T11, long before, I'm going to have a Mow tip. Those tips I feel like are definitely your core fishing tips in, typically in T11 and T14. But then as you broaden out, you're fishing more unique areas and stuff, bringing these integrated tips in is good. But I got to say, I really don't use them as much as I use my core pieces.
There's a lot of personal preference here, a lot of opinions. I fished with Scott O'Donnell the last couple of years on the North Coast, winter steelhead, and he'll put on a 5-and-5 Mow tip all day. And so, to me, the integrated are a little more tactical. I wrote a little piece, Get Tactical with Rio Mow Tips. Check it out. It's on our blog. So after fishing with Scott, it was a real eye-opener to how he uses Mow tips and the situations where he likes this, that, or the other. So check it out.
Okay, moving on. Question 3. Please, this is an anonymous question. Please suggest some days that you think would be the most productive for catching fish.
It wasn't actually anonymous, but I just didn't want to put his name in there. Embarrassing.
Days that end with Y?
Yeah.
Good days?
Yeah.
Tuesday?
It's real easy to get hung up on, we get a question a lot. What's peak season? What's the best time? When should I go? And, just go fishing. There's a window, the Rogue River, July through December. You got as good a chance today as you do October 15th, as you did July 15th, as you will November 15th, I think, to catch a steelhead.
Absolutely. For steelhead, it's trout, I guess, is a little more consistent. You can sort of break it down, but steelhead is, there's definitely, we have those weeks in October where like everything's lined up. It just should be outstanding, but man, it's just really, really tough. And there's a lot of factors involved. So, it's definitely easier for us being in proximity to the river to just grab a rod and go have a morning session or an evening session. So certainly if you're coming from out of town, give us a call. We're happy to talk about it at length about what would be the best time for your trip. But, the best time is just to go. Overcast is obviously fantastic, but we've all had great days in full bright sun. And so it's really hard to say what's the best time. So best time to go is when you have the time to go, and off you go.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint. I know when you have just one day you can go, you want to make the best of it, but gosh, we don't know. There's a window and you just go and you get what you get and enjoy what you got.
Okay, one more question. How does weather impact fishing for salmonids? Perhaps omniscient John could prepare a poster showing how fish react to weather and how we can maximize our time on the water by knowing, according to the weather, what, when, where, why, and how to angle for steelhead, trout, and salmon, or just steelhead.
I love this question. This is a response to our last, you asked for it, and I love the sarcasm because that's exactly how I would have put it.
Yes.
And it's well deserved. Because we put a lot of videos out. Well, this is what you should do. You should do it. Well, you know what? We're not experts. We're just trying to help. Sometimes what we have to say actually works. Sometimes it doesn't. But that being said, it kind of goes along with the last question. When should I go?
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of variables that affect your success in the field, no doubt, on the river. And too many variables to just rattle them off. I did do, he asked for I could prepare a poster. I don't have a post prepared, but we did do a little video last fall about how water conditions and so on and so forth affect fishing. And so check that out. Water conditions, water temps, and I can't even remember the name of the dang blog I did. But anyway, a little video, and I did do a whiteboard. There is a whiteboard, so we'll put a link to it. Check it out. It just talks about water conditions, visibility, temperature, sun, flies, all that. How all that kind of relates. So check that out.
Perfect.
What do you think?
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. And I am an expert. So anyway, if you want to call me, then I'll take your question on the phone.
And that was Jim Dawson, by the way. Jim, keep the questions coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate the sarcastic tone.
We love it.
Love it.
Yeah, please keep them coming. Great. So another great way to have your questions addressed live in person is at our event Rogue on the Fly, which is going to be happening October 1st and 2nd at Indian Mary Park on the Rogue River. And it's our second year we're putting it on, and we're just stoked about it. So we'd love to have you there. Please call with any questions. We have a bunch of info on our website as well. Another great resource for two-hand casting and also for single-hand stuff. I encourage you to come out for our Third Sunday Spay, which is a free thing that I put on every third Sunday of the month, and right on the Rogue River at Tuval Park. And we kind of go through lots of stuff there. It's a great place to get some questions answered and try some equipment and stuff like that. So I think that wraps up this segment of You Asked For It.
That's right. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much, folks.